Has canceled pizza and your vote. Greg Palast explains. Check it out. Leave your comments, ding the bell, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. So I opened the previous hour with a rant about this whole phony cancel culture hysteria that has replaced any discussion of actual policy on the hard right over on Fox News and every place else. You know, how Hasbro's decision to drop the word Mr. because they're selling, you know, male and female, Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head, a decision obviously made last year during the Trump administration, or for that matter, the decision that the Dr. Seuss Foundation, the foundation that controls his work, made last year again to pull 6 books out of print because they have racist images. That somehow that is the evil Biden administration trying to cancel America. Well, it turns out there are some things actually that some states do want to cancel. Greg Palast is on the line with us, our old buddy, the investigative journalist, author of How Trump Stole 2020. GregPalast.com is his website. You can tweet him at Greg_Palast, just like my Twitter handle is Thom_Hartmann. And Greg, welcome back. What are they trying to cancel in Georgia?
Well, Tom, put down that pizza and no one gets hurt. I can't make this up. This week, the Georgia legislature voted, among other things, to make giving out slices of pizza and bottled water to voters in line a felony crime. Now, as you know, there's the Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, has been played as a great hero defending our democracy. He says, no, we don't need such a law because he'd already declared that handing out pizza and bottled water to voters in line in Georgia is a go-to-jail felony crime. Look, I can't make it up. But having been in Georgia, and by the way, we went down to investigate, the Greg Palast investigative team, and sure enough, we caught this conspiracy of criminals trying to bribe voters. They're wearing these hats that said Papa John's. I don't know if you're familiar with the Papa John's pizza pusher gang, but they're a dangerous crowd, which was trying
Democrats.
To simply give try to give water. And, well, they weren't giving out pizza slices, but calzones, which are kind of pocket pizzas. You know, it's still a crime. And, you know, but this is what's going on. And understand, let's also, besides the kind of weird, you know, Orwellian humor of it, the truth is that one of the big problems is that they've been making it so difficult to vote early for voters of color that you end up with these massive lines. When I was in Georgia in this general and the runoff elections, you had in one place a line of 11 hours. And it is a crime to give someone standing in line a bottle of water while they're standing there for hours. So they cut off the voting. For example, if you go to GregPalast.com, you'll actually see a film of these criminals, that is, these so-called Papa John's pizza people, handing out water and handing out calzones. And the reason why there was a massive line where I was in Cobb County is that they had 11 polling stations during the general election for early voting. It's a huge county with 500,000 voters. They cut it from 11 stations to 5. All 6 voting stations in Cobb County that were closed were in African-American neighborhoods, and they only left the 5 stations that were in white areas. So, of course, black folk ended up flooding into what is normally the white voting stations, and you ended up with hours and hours of people waiting. And if you dare give them a bottle of water or anything, you could literally get busted. And I saw this. You know, even journalists were told you can't talk to voters, nothing. It's all – so they make the lines ridiculously long, and then they literally make it painful to even vote. That's just one of the things that they came up with in a vote on Monday, HB 531 they call it. And that's just one of the things. So it does cut early. So, for example, Tom, they're going to cut early voting. They're going to eliminate souls. They're going to have only one Sunday vote for early voting. Now, understand, Sunday voting is when the majority of African Americans in Georgia and Hispanics voted souls to the polls. You go after church. People don't have cars, so they go in church buses. So they want to cut out the black voting day. They want to say because Trump got crushed in the mail-in balloting in Georgia, and that's how he lost Georgia with and the Warnock and Ossoff both won their runoffs with the mail-in ballot, and they want to make it basically virtually outlaw the mail-in ballot by saying you have to have an excuse. How about the excuse being I'm an American citizen, I want to vote? That's not an excuse. You have to have an excuse to vote that's verified, and you also have to include, and this will confuse a lot of people, an acceptable ID has to be included with your mail-in ballot, despite the fact that they couldn't prove that one single voter mailed in a ballot that wasn't theirs. There wasn't a single case of identified voter theft, vote identity theft in voting, not one, yet they're making the mail-in ballot all but illegal in Georgia. And then, because they make the mail-in ballots illegal, they're going to have, and cutting the early voting, they're going to have lines and lines and lines, so you make it literally painful, saying no water, no food, stand there for 4 hours. You know, this is the only way that the GOP thinks it can win back Georgia. Yeah.
Yeah. No, and you're absolutely right, Greg. And you know, cancel pizza is not the rallying cry among the Republicans. It's really a tragedy. The good news, I suppose, although there's a bad news piece of this, is that H.R. 1, the For the People Act, that passed the House of Representatives day before yesterday and is now before the Senate, would require states to have enough polling stations that nobody has to stand in line for hours and hours and hours. And, you know, it would standardize this all across the country so that in those states where, you know, particularly in the Deep South, where they have historically made it very difficult to vote in black neighborhoods, that they simply can't do this anymore, which is, of course, why, you know, Fox News and right-wing hate radio are just hysterical about this. I'm getting emails from, you know, the old Koch networks, Freedom Works, you know, calling it the Gag Act. They're trying to shut up the billionaires. They're going to have to reveal how much money they're giving and to whom. Oh, my God, you know, it's going to be the end of democracy in America. Antifa is going to come bang on their front door. It's bizarre, but there is a solution to this. And then the bad news to the good news is that the Republicans intend to filibuster the For the People Act, which is a whole nother topic. But are you saying this is going to pass the Georgia legislature, right? This cancel pizza legislation?
It did on Monday. It passed the Georgia legislature on a pure party line vote, and of course you have Brian Kemp. You know, despite the fact that he has been peed upon by the former president, he is still, you know, an ultra right wing. As you know, this is the vote suppressor in chief, as Gerald Griggs of the NAACP calls him, and you know, he's going to sign that thing. So this will be law in Georgia. Now, normally, under the old Voting Rights Act formulation, this would be challenged by the federal government. But, you know, we've lost most of the Voting Rights Act, Section 5. And this week we also had a very frightening debate about eliminating what is called Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, Tom, which allows you to sue after the fact. You know, the Section 5 allowed you to stop these tricks before there's an election. It's called preclearance. That's gone. But what's still there is that if you do something that clearly has a racial bias to it, that's still Section 2 is still there. And unfortunately, the Supreme Court, with, you know, the six right-wingers, is going to decide whether they're going to rip apart Section 2.
Yeah, it's strange times we're living in here, Greg. Greg Palast, gregpalast.com, the website. Check it out.